Hello. There is a new update on the LayerCraft. You can see it's in the blueprint folder as DynamicCraft. What it does, we have our mesh. We can specify any mesh we want. We have and our material. So as the material, as you can see in the details tab, we have used LayerCraft option enabled, so all the other parameters are disabled. And in the layer parameters, we have one of the presets called BHK wall. I want to be able to modify inside the blueprint and inside the details folder. So this is DynamicCraft, and we have classical DynamicCraft blueprint actor. So you can modify your blueprint logic, your game logic, and you can expose the parameters into cinematic to change dynamically. So what we have in Transform Classic is as the default we have mesh and material. This is basic construction script stuff. But we have now these called layer parameters and blend parameters. When you drop down these, you'll see all the parameters we have normally to adjust our materials. We have textures, UV logic, and surface adjustments. So of course it's not we don't have the capability to switch the boolean switches to update. We can only have texture, scalar, and vector parameters. So it will depend on your material instance and how you set its capabilities. For example, if we want to use word projection, we have to set from the material. This is something you must. But what we have is the exposed parameters, like the styling parameter. Instead of using from here, now we can use in the blueprint and individually. So, for example, we have the UV logic, and there is this array element. We need to add new elements for each layer and the blend asset. And the plus icon, we have this index, and we have all these parameters to change at the runtime. So we need to check the run override, and now if I change this value, it will change dynamically without changing the original material instance. These are both DynamicCraft blueprint now. In both of them we have exposed the tiling, but only one I want to move, and it will change only the specific, the selected one. So as before, as classic method, you can change. Of course you have to disable override, so we don't have any override now, and we can change, and this has overrides. So the material instance will control, like, globally every layer that is every mesh that is using this layer will be affected. But if we have override, if we have like 2, it won't affect. If we override, we can change specifically for this example. We have all these other parameters, but since we don't have enabled the styling control switch, it won't be affecting anything. But once we open this styling controls, so we have these also exposed. Now we can change the specific tiling or the offset. Offset Y. Z is for the word projection, as you can understand. So this is just the beginning, but I think you are understanding where I am going with this. So of course we have, it's depending on your material setup. All these switches are off to increase the performance. Right now we have, and we have, like, now we have brightness and desaturation. values. For this example, I want to enable the albedo controls by default. So when we go to surface color information and plus, our index 0 is the background layer, and when we override, we can control the brightness dynamically, the desaturation, and the tint color. Can just imagine, see in the response, in the first layer, in the index 1, we enable this, and we have the roughness amount. If I lower this, it will be like directly get wet, or a specular amount. So let's see on the action where it's going to shine. So let's see, we are going to add our make our material more complex. We can search for, I don't know, moss. Let's see, so we have the moss layer, this is overriding. We need some kind of logic. Let's create our logic. What we can do, like we have all the mask is in the debug, you can see the mask is like covering everything, it's totally white. We need a logic. I want to override this mask by attribute channels, some cavities or displacement information from the bottom layer where we have our textures. We have ORD texture, so we can use these kind of attributes as attribute mask. It is in the detail mask, so we will enable detail mask. As default, it is blending in the transition area, so we don't have any base masks, but we can use overlay, so it will act as a multiplier to the existing mask, which is 1. So in this example, we use from bottom, and we have by default displacement, so we can control the detail mask amount and contrast from here. This is where will the displacement, like a high points, will be blending first. You can increase the contrast. So on the high points we can see the moss. Okay, let's say this is our default mode. Now what we can do, so we set up our detail mask. We have these parameters exposed. We don't have anything in the base mask, and we have our second layer, its own tiling and all the information. So in the layer parameters, let's see, we have all these logic. What we want to able to, I don't know, let's see, let's first work with the layer. We have our UV logic. When we add another element to this parameter array, this index 2, the index 1, sorry, the second one, will be affecting the second layer we have. So we again enable override, and when we change the tiling, it will only affect the tiling of that specific layer. So again, we don't have tiling control, so we cannot override these things. But you get the idea. This is the same. Like for example, we can make it a bit shiny for the moss. When we decrease, the moss is getting wet. Very nice. We can increase specular. This is like a wet one. Maybe a bit darkening the color. So again, in the surface tab, I want the second override, and the brightness will darken, so we have this effect. Perfect. So this is the layer asset, and now for the blend asset. Again, we have our base, detail, and paint mask. That will be the most common showcases. We want to change the detail mask because we have the detail mask amount as displacement. This is our main mask information. So when we change this, so the first index of the blend parameter will be the first blend asset. So like the moss has the layer 1 but the blend 0. If we overwrite this, we are losing this information. So if we set up as before, yeah, we don't have any difference now. So we can now change from here instead of instance. We have ability control the contrast if when we enable the override. We have this contrast. Wow, it's really nice. So the mask amount, this is happening perfectly. So we have this moss growing, the high contrast. And for another example, we can use actually the same logic with maybe sand effect in the invert area. So we search for like sand, it's overwriting everything, and again master layer, we are using detail mask and overlay and displacement, maybe not, but we will see. We need to see first. So we have, I just use this instance now as the panel of enabling what kind of parameters will be available, enable or not. Then for the rest we can use our blueprint now. So this index 1 is the second blend layer set. I have override and nothing changed, but now we can contrast highly and lower the amount. This is like try to override some areas. And I want this to be in the lower parts. You can invert with negative and you will see that the height information where it is low, we are going to able to see the sand, like in the crevices, in the details, and like we can use occlusion for this. Again, I'm controlling my panel from the instance, but now I have my controlling happening here. Like, let's say 4, lower this, you have these effects happening. So now this is the main instance material. So let's say we want to adjust as we want. Or we can use our blueprint now. Mask amount. And for the color, can lower the color. So we need, this is rock, this is moss, and the third one as index 2 will be overwriting the color of the sand. I will lower this, we're gonna have more darkened sand. So I mean, I hope you can imagine the effects, and of course we can override some textures. For example, for the last layer we can change our textures. We need to override, and let's search for some textures. We have all this texture set. I mean, what could we use? There was a kind of stone, small stone, yeah, volcanic beach pebbles. When I overwrite this, and simply let's quickly adjust ORD and the normal. So now we have our new textures. It's like a new layer that all controlled by this blueprint. And we need more dramatic contrast. Like, wow, get that. You have all these textures information. You can change the displacement of the rocks individually. More higher contrast will give us that is wonderful. Like the mouse is on the top. So in this blueprint you can change all the logic you have. All is happening in the construction script. Actually, no, this, don't mind this. This is only this part. You know, this is really small. We have all this logic is collapsed here. So we set our static mesh, we get the scale, and we create a dynamic material to override, to we access to the parameters. So first we have our layer logic, and as the per group we have all the structures that are controlling each layer. The layers are defined by the array index. So here you can add as many parameters you like and expose them. You need to first enter the structures. So here is your DynamicCraft blueprint, and here are the structures you have. So for example, we can, let's see, we have only the color informations parameters as brightness, desaturation, and tint color, but as our materials we have much more. We can use albedo mask, occlusion mask, noise variation, and also it is enabled in the, not because the texture sets are blocking, but if we disable this, we have also emissive and surface. So if you enable this emissive parameters, we have this emissive strength and color. So if you just use these functions as custom functions as like scalar, vector, or texture parameter according to the parameter you have in the instance, you can just add more controls to the blueprint. I just try to keep it more most case use. This is also same thing for the blends. So for example, in the blend we have base mask, and in the base mask we only have base mask amount, the contrast. But if you take a look, for example, in the procedural mask, like let's say it's gradient, we all have this gradient contrast and offset, or like going to a directional mask, it has direction amount, direction contrast. Edge wear is also has specific things. So each mask has a specific unique parameter by itself, but these base mask amount, it's like covering everything. All the mask methods are affected by this. So this is the purpose to access from here. So whatever you set here, it will be accessed from here. We can control this. And the detail mask, you will see we have the same thing, but we can use our noise. Let's say we are blending the top layer, the volcanic thing, by the mask. We have this texture, and we don't have any control over this noise. The noise is just texture blend. So we can again control the detail mask amount, and we can control the mask amount by here. but we don't have the tiling controls like tiling here and all the other things like animations, bird projection, everything. It's really easy to just search the matching name and put it here, like the detail mask amount. Let's see, in the blend parameters we have like detail mask, and here you'll need to find this detail mask structure, and here are structures. You can just add here your parameters by these names, and then you will have here in the when you break this structure you will expose those parameters, and you will just need to match the new one, put the index and put your value to the value and the name here. That's it. So it's easy to build up, but I think in most cases, for the use cases, these mask amount, they are like globally controlling base and this detail, and also the paint masks have also their own amount, contrast, and the channel. So if you were to, let's say we are enabling the paint mask, and we're going to use texture paint because we have nanite enabled. So we have the texture color, we can add a new texture. Because we have black, we don't have any information. So when we want to paint over here, you can just enable the red channel. We are going to paint, but we have also this base mask information. So if you switch, use paint as base mask, it will just disable the paint base mask information. And detail, oh, we have this on the detail, so we can just disable the detail. Let me show you the paint. So we have red here, and let's say green here, and we have blue here. Alright, normally you would need to include these. Oh, so we have green here. I just erase the green channel here. So in the RGB we have only blue, red and green. So by default we have it in the red, but if we want to overwrite this, so let's see, this is our second blend asset. So we add another array, we say overwrite. So now we can control the amount of the paint and the contrast of the paint, and also the channel. So I want this blue area also add to the equation. Here we have the green also, so like every paint here. So everything can be controlled here in the DynamicCraft, your layer and blend parameters. Like I don't like to this, yeah, just a simple override or not. And if the displacement contrast is high, I just want to the deform, can lower it only for that layer. Lower the brightness, anything is possible now. The detail, like first one we have so thank you. It's going to be a long video, but I think that was a good one. So this is a new update in the LayerCraft project. You can find it on the fab. And see you next time.